seguir con la presentación. Good afternoon. Welcome everybody to the 7th English Language Symposium. Our student Alexis Oviedo will give the introduction.
Thank you, Professor Canessa, and welcome everyone to the 7th English Language Symposium from the Higher Institute of Languages. This is the second day. Yesterday we had many interesting presentations, and today we also have other presentations for you. Please remember that you can follow us on Facebook, on Instagram, also on LinkedIn, so that you can be in touch with us to see what we do. And also, if you're interested in one of our degrees, you can reach out to us at any time. We're going to get started with a presentation about an organization which you can join in case you're interested, in case you want to be a volunteer. I happen to be a volunteer myself, and it's a great organization. Professor Canessa, you want to?
Yes, before we go on to the presentation, I just wanted to give a brief overview of the whole afternoon, if that's okay with you, Alex, so that people who are starting to watch can know what is coming. So we have, I'd like to thank especially our students, especially Alexis here, who is our host, and the third-year students who are the organizers, and also everybody who's joining us from Facebook Live. And I would like to thank both Professors Mazzoleni and Nunez, who are going to be sharing about Paratesol, and then
now we can get started.
Thank you so much for the for the presentation, for the introduction. Hello, Dr. Canesse. I would also like to say hello to everybody who's watching. It's great to share this afternoon with you. And I would also like to say hello to to Rocio. Rocio is also is the key member here in Paratesol because she's our current president. Hello, Rocio.
Hello, thank you for presenting me, and thank you for all the ones that could make it. So we are going to talk a little bit about Paratesol with Elena, and so we'll share some slides, and of course we are open at the end for questions, and would really like you to be part of the working force, not just a member that you are. All the students of ISL are can be members of Paratesol this year. So. What is it that is Paratesol? And we can let me share. Sorry about my lack of my connection is creating some problems.
I can also share the presentation if you
want. Okay. Please.
All right, so I'll share and you can get started.
Yeah. Okay, so, okay, as I said, my connection is playing up a little bit. So, what we could say is that Paratesol is a teachers' association. We are all members of all the members of Paratesol are voluntaries, and basically. We will talk with Elena about a little bit of the background of of Paratesol, so we understand where we are coming from. And a few weeks ago, we have the a workshop given by Susan Spezzini. Susan Spezzini is very special for all of us because he was a professor, but also because he was a past president from Paratesol, and she was among the first Paratesol presidents in Paraguay. And as you know, Paratesol is, first of all, is a non-profit national organization, but belongs to TESOL International. It's a chapter of TESOL International, and it has been in Paraguay for more than 30 years with a short interval of a few years. But basically, Paratesol has always been with us. I said always because it's been most of my working life, and I think Elena's working life and Valentina's too. So, and the main reason for Paratesol success is to give professional development, to support teachers, to be there for teachers, okay? And as I always say, the classroom, although we are surrounded by students, can be a very lonely place in the sense that for teachers, so teachers need to share their experience, and to be able to talk, to have a common place to meet with other professionals and also get help. Okay, so I don't know if Elena would like to add something. Please tell me, and oops, I think we cannot hear you. I think your microphone.
There you go. There you go. Now you can hear me. Thank you so much. I'm sorry for that. Yes, Paratesol. I've also been part of Paratesol for quite some time, since the beginning of my teaching career. And what Paratesol means to me is a special place, a special organization of teachers who are caring, who are interested in their own growth, but who are also interested in helping others become great teachers and find their passions and keep learning together. So that is what Paratesol means to me personally. And I know that every single member that we have share this passion and this interest in growth, in serving our students better, in being always up to date with not only teaching methodologies and all things teacher related, but we also care about getting to build this network, this caring network of teachers who support each other. And it's not just in Paraguay, because even though we all suffered during the pandemic, something positive that we can talk and mention about the pandemic is the fact that we were able to open Paratesol to the world, and we've been able to grow even stronger with our Latin American and international also TESOL organizations. So for me, it's been great to actually get to meet, even though we were not able to see each other, physically, but we were able to see through, like now we are through, thanks to technology, we were able to meet absolutely wonderful, inspiring professionals who give so much and who do research and who share generously their expertise. So if I'm pretty sure that many people who are watching this presentation and are teachers will probably feel the same about their own careers. And if you want to join us, you are more than welcome. You're going to find a group of great teachers and great educators who are always willing to help and to learn and to grow.
Mm-hmm. That's right. Thank you, Elena. And actually, that is very true. Like, we are together, and we grow by sharing. So everyone has something to give to Paratesol, and probably some members are better at some things than others. And in Paratesol is a place where we meet and we combine our expertise, our talents, and we share them. So, who makes Paratesol run or work? And actually, the volunteers do. Okay, even the board are all volunteers. In the board, we have a president, we have a vice president. Two vice presidents, the first and the second, the treasurer, the secretary of minutes, the coordinator of volunteers, and the different committees. That is what Paratesol is composed of, but they are all volunteers, okay? We are all there. No one is having a salary. We do it because we really believe that we can contribute, and by sharing, we can grow more. Okay, so we truly believe that this is the way to go. Sometimes when there are many things that we are learning, and we're still learning after a long time, okay? And we can learn from newer teachers, from teachers that have been in the field for a long time.
And as a matter of fact, I remember I'm here like reminiscing and with you, Rocio, this afternoon. I remember that when I became a Paratesol member, it was the early 2000s, probably 2002 or 3, and I remember watching the president and the vice president. There were, I think, Erwin Bogado was the president back then, and so many other people, and it was inspiring to see and invigorating to see the energy that they would share and the passion that they had for the profession. And as a new teacher back then, more than 20 years ago, or almost 20 years ago, it was absolutely great. And I would think to myself, wow, maybe one day I might be able to be part of, a volunteer, or be part of contributing in a different manner, right? Yeah. Later in the, as the years went by, I was able to present in different workshops and the conferences, and sharing things that I would do. Or sometimes I remember once sharing my research work from ISL because it was teaching related. So I was given the opportunity to share what I've learned through my research. So Paratesol is that, right? It's made up of volunteers, as you said. That's the volunteer work is the heart of Paratesol. So if you are interested in sharing your time with others, and also gaining so much from others, then Paratesol is your organization. And as you mentioned, all of us, the people who I'm as a former member of the board, everything is volunteer, yes, but there is a lot of things that we learn from each other, and as presenters, or as members of the board, or as Alexis mentioned that he's currently a volunteer as well. And there are so many things that we can learn from each other. And you mentioned something super important, which is the talent. We can help our talent grow as well, because some people are extremely awesome with design, for instance, right? And we need these teachers who are passionate about design as well, because we need to, make presentations and make flyers. And some people are absolutely great managing social media and social networks and things like that. And we learn from each other as well, right? Because communicating is a key part of the work at Paratesol. Not only organizing workshops, but also communicating what's going on in our community of teachers.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And also, it's very rewarding to be a volunteer. But what does it mean to be a volunteer? And sometimes it is very rewarding to help each other to grow. It's an opportunity that Paratesol is giving us to grow more and to present the work that we are doing in class to share with others. But also in this organization, we learned what is voluntary work, and and as I said, that is very rewarding, helps you grow, but also can help you if you're young, if you want to pursue a career or studies abroad. They always ask, did you do some voluntary work? So Paratesol is a great place to start and to put in your CV that you were working in your profession, you were sharing, you were growing, and at the same time, you were helping.
Absolutely. And I would say this for all of the people who are watching and sharing this afternoon with us. If you're interested in standing out, among peers, or maybe you are, as Rocio said, maybe you want to pursue a career or for a prospective employer or for a scholarship. If you want to stand out and be different and have something else to say and to talk about and to share with all of these people, if you mention that you've been a member or a volunteer of a teaching, because we are part of the chapter of TESOL International. So it's not just Paratesol here that belongs to Paraguay and it's constrained to Paraguay, because Paratesol is one chapter from TESOL International. And if in case you are not familiar with TESOL International is one of the biggest organizations of teachers in the world, of teachers who teach English as a second language or as a foreign language or as an additional language. So it is an important organization, and we also have our sister teachers, sister and TESOLs in Latin America. So if you're interested, you can always get to grow as well, not only and stay just in the Paraguayan community, but also why not the world. So if you really want to stand out in your CV and write down that you've done voluntary work, then come to Paratesol. We're waiting for you, for sure.
Yes, we are waiting. So as we mentioned, it can be very helpful. And also we are part of a bigger organization, as Elena was mentioning, and we're in contact. So one of the very good things about the pandemic is that we started interacting more online, and we were able to get close to our sister associations, to share also with them, and also to get speakers from all over the world. So we are gaining expertise from people, not only outside Asunción, that is a good thing, but also outside the country. Okay, so that is a good thing. And actually, we're having a conference very soon, next month on the 22nd. And this time we are going to have a higher, like last year, in a hybrid mode. And so one day would be at the NIAS, it would be face to face. You will have to go to the venue. The other day, we will have an online conference to have the chance to listen, to interact with those that are far from Asunción. So you have the best of both worlds, and you can be part of it, attending it, but also you can also be a volunteer.
Yeah, and there's something else. Even you might be wondering if you're at home and listening to us, and you might say, well, I would love to be a volunteer. That's something that I've been waiting for. This is my opportunity. This is my year. And you might be wondering, well, but I don't live in Asunción or in the Gran Asunción area. Can I still be, part of the volunteer force in Paratesol, even if I live in Encarnación, in Caguazú, in, anywhere, Ciudad del Este, or any city? Yes, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Because I think that we've had volunteers from all over Paraguay, right, Rocio?
Yes, we do. One of our volunteers is coming from Villarrica at the moment. So she's really like all the things that you see in our social media is designed by a volunteer that is far away from Asunción.
Yeah. So, and the thing is that you might say, well, but do I have to go to Asunción to actually be able to help Paratesol and be part of the volunteer, the great community of volunteers in Paratesol? Not really, because sometimes we have conferences like these or workshops, or as you mentioned, social media and design. And thanks to technology, all the board and the volunteers are able to join through Zoom call, and that's when they do all their meetings and planning and working. So even if you are not living in Asunción but you still want to work and you still want to share a couple of hours of your time whenever the volunteers meet, you can still do it. If you're interested in contributing to the field, if you're interested in maybe getting a scholarship and expanding your horizon and exchange ideas, that's all the things that the slide says, you can still do it even if you're not living in Asunción, because you can do many things remotely, and that is actually really, really cool. So we want to encourage you this afternoon to think about it and contact us, because we would be super happy to have you.
Yes, we will. And actually, we have you can look for us in our social media, Instagram, Facebook, okay? And also your coordinators will, you can always ask your coordinators for details, and they will be able to help. As you know, just by being a student, you are a member this year, but we would love to have you as someone that is more active in the organization, because you are starting, and it's and we need people with new ideas, with fresh ideas, okay? So, if you want to be a volunteer for the conference, I think after in one of the slides is after the conclusion is the Google Doc that you can inscribe yourself. It's called for volunteers, but this is for the conference this month. But you can also, when they contact you, you can also say that you want to be a volunteer for webinars and other things.
So I just want to reinforce this information for everyone at home. Yes, if you are an ISL student, you are part of Paratesol already. So because the board has decided that that we want ISL students to be members for free. So you might know that other teachers, colleagues, professionals who want to be members, they pay an annual fee, which is not very expensive. And students from other places who are also students, they also pay another fee. But you, as an ISL student, you are already a member. But being a volunteer is a little bit different because it's a much more active role. So we love already to have you there. We are super excited to have all ISL students as members for this 2023 year, but we would love it to have you as a more active member, as a volunteer. So make sure that you contact the people at Paratesol. Follow us. You can follow us on social media. There's also a WhatsApp group, which is more like an information group because it's a one-way group. So it's not that you will be able to interact, but you would be able to react to all the news, so you don't miss out in anything. Valentina.
Yes, I would like to also mention that this year we had a group of a very large group of English teachers from public schools who participated in a course given by the ISL, and Paratesol was kind enough to offer free membership to all of the teachers who concluded this course. So these volunteer opportunities are also open to everyone who is interested, whether you are a student or you are a teacher or you just want to make a contribution to the teaching community, the English teaching community in Paraguay. Everybody is invited to become a volunteer to help with the workshops and the conferences and all of the exciting activities that we have coming up all the time. Like Elena and Rocio said, we had Professor Susan Spezzini visit us and give us a workshop. We will have a book coming out that is also sponsored by Paratesol together with the ISL. So the partnerships, Paratesol has partnerships not only with the Instituto Superior de Lenguas, with the Higher Institutes of Languages, but also with INAES that now will be hosting the Paratesol conference, and Universidad Nacional de Itapúa, and other organizations that are interested in the English teaching profession. So please join us at Paratesol. It is a wonderful community. It's a growing community, and we are very excited to be able to have everybody's support in this organization.
Yes, thank you, Valentina. We're very happy to mention that some of our students at ISL are already volunteers and are working really, really hard. Okay, and after this presentation, I will put this call for volunteers in the chat. So in case you're interested, you can copy from the chat as well. Okay, so we are open for questions. If you want to write to us, we will answer them, and hopefully we will see you very soon in our conference. Okay, and thank you for your attention. Thank you for all the volunteers, Valentina and Elena. They are also volunteers, and Alexis is a volunteer. Gabi Saban is a volunteer. So we are very happy to have you all on board. Okay.
That's right. So thank you so much for having us. We would like to thank the English Symposium committee, who has been working very hard to put this symposium together. Thank you for inviting Paratesol. For us, it's very important to share the work that we've been doing for a little bit around 30 years. And as we said, the doors are open for you, not only as an ISL student, but also if you are an educator and who's interested, or you just love education and you're passionate about education, and you would like to learn and grow, this is the community for you. So don't forget to follow us on social media. You can also request to be part of the WhatsApp information group, so you don't miss any opportunity, any workshop. And the link, I think Alexis is going to share it in our Facebook Live as well. We appreciate that very much. So when can you start if you want to become a member? Right away. So we are waiting for you. And we hope to see each other, if not face to face, at least in this virtual community, which has been growing and growing. So thank you so much for your attention and for having us this afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Elena and Professor Rocio Mazzoleni, for this presentation. I've already shared the links to Facebook and Instagram pages of Paratesol, and I saw that Gabi sent a link to join as a volunteer. So thank you, Gabriela Saban. I see that there are no questions from the audience. So in the meantime, don't forget that we also have a YouTube channel from the Higher Institute of Languages. You will be able to see many videos and resources which you can find useful. Also, please stay until the end, because you're going to receive a feedback form which you can complete for us. And so let's move on to the next presentation, which is going to be given by Professor Valentina Canese. She's going to present about AI in education. So, Professor Canese, whenever you're ready.
Hello, everybody, again. Thank you, Alexis, and thank you once again to Rocio and Elena for sharing all of this wonderful information about Paratesol. With the symposium participants, we are very excited with the partnership between the Higher Institute of Languages, the ISL, and Paratesol. We've been partners for many, many years. Many of our former directors were part of the leadership team, and so we have a very close relationship with the Paratesol community, and for us it's very important to be able to support each other in the different endeavors that we want to embark on. So today I will share with you a presentation. Let me see. Actually, it says AI for education, but it's mainly focused on ChatGPT for active learning. So why ChatGPT? ChatGPT became an instant phenomenon when it came out last November. Everybody started talking about, everybody started worrying about ChatGPT, and as teachers and educators, what are we going to do about this situation? We have now this large language model that we can ask all kinds of questions, and it gives us an answer. And now we're going to see that the answers may not always be correct, but it always gives us an answer. So throughout this presentation, I'm going to explore briefly what ChatGPT is, how it works, very briefly, because I have a basic understanding of how it works. And then what are some of the challenges, and what are some of the ways in which us students, as educators, as learners, we can use it for our benefit and without compromising the ethical aspects that we need to take into account when we use these new tools that present us with really serious ethical challenges that makes us re-examine the whole notion of teaching and learning. So first of all, so what is ChatGPT? I have here Actually, this is, for whatever reason, this is in Spanish. I have the Wikipedia definition of ChatGPT, which is an artificial intelligence chatbot that works as it's based on a large language model that is uses machine learning to produce human-like interactions with the users. And the new model is now we have 3 versions of ChatGPT. The original that was launched was the ChatGPT 3. The current version is ChatGPT 3.5, and the paid version is the ChatGPT 4. So how does ChatGPT work? So ChatGPT, like the definition mentions, is a large language model that basically is a machine learning system that was devised to, it was trained with large input of language data to emulate human interaction, to emulate human conversation. So what ChatGPT does is it provides answers, or it provides interaction to the users in a way that mimics or tries to replicate the way humans interact with each other. So the step 1 in ChatGPT, there was a collection of demonstration data and that was used to train the system. So the system was trained with the large quantities of data coming from many different sources, and then this data, the machine learning system learned about these topics, and then people were used to actually train the system so that people could determine whether the answers were more or less satisfactory. And this is why OpenAI decided to launch the system to have more interactions, because the more interactions, the more the system can learn. Because the way this works is the system works on an input basis. So the model then collects comparison data and is trained on a reward model. So the more positive answers or positive feedback that it gets, then it fine-tunes the answers. So it keeps the good answers and, let's say, discards the bad answers based on what the users say, whether these answers are correct or are, good or not. And then there's a system of optimizing these outputs. So this is a very simplistic way of explaining it. I am not a computer engineer or anything like that. I have a little bit basic knowledge of the concept of how these machine learning systems work. And so it's not like a Google search engine that it's searching for information, but it's actually the machine learning, what it does is it processes all the data that was used to input, and then from that data, and then it provides an output. So that is, now, what can we do with ChatGPT? So this comes from a site that's called ditch.textbook.com, and it has a really interesting and article that is quite extensive on the use of artificial intelligence for education. And the link is right here. So one of the things that this article shares is a tweet by an educator called Matt Miller, and he mentions, okay, so when the calculators came out, people said, people are going to become lazy and they won't be able to do math anymore. to an extent, certain math, quick math or quick, let's say, mental math. Some people don't do that so much anymore, but it didn't really stop the development of math in the ability of people to do math. And then when search engines came out, they said, well, then now people are not going to remember anything anymore. And similarly to what the philosophers of the first century AD or BC, Socrates and his colleagues said, well, when the first writing systems came out, they said, well, now people are not going to keep things in their heads anymore. They're not going to remember anything because things are going to be written down, and so you're going to become lazy. And to an extent, that may be true for some people, but also it opens a whole new array of possibilities of the things that you can do when you don't have to remember, let's say, memorize little facts and things, but you can use your let's say, your brain power to do other more complex activities. So same happened when Google Translate, Wikipedia, Photomath, and now ChatGPT. These things, what do all these have in common? That they disrupt traditional teaching. And now as teachers and as educators, we need to adapt as education evolves forward. Blocking them isn't the answer. Making education more relevant is. So this is what this educator claims. I mean, this view is not shared by everyone. Artificial intelligence and the use of artificial intelligence is still very new, and there's a whole array of challenges that come from its mere existence. So we had in the past that we worried about, for example, plagiarism, and now it's okay. Now ChatGPT can produce human-like text that can mimic an essay, and so now we have to see how we're going to solve the situation. How are we and how can, as learners and as teachers, how can we take advantages of the opportunities or of the tools that these AI tools provide, and try to take into account the challenges that they present in terms of the, let's say, the cheating opportunities and other kinds of things. So here are some, you can see, we're gonna do an overview later of these in another slide. Here are, so this is what the good people at thattextbook.com gives us as. So some uses for ChatGPT include text generation. So when you need to generate some text for example, for news summaries, for product descriptions, or quick stories to use with your students, or with especially for teaching, you can actually ask the bot to simplify text. So for example, if you give the bot a news article or a research paper article, the ChatGPT can, for example, summarize it for you, or can make it simpler. It can make it. It can put it into, say, for example, a ninth grade level, sixth grade level, third grade level, or you can use the Common European Framework to make to tell the chatbot to simplify a text for an A1 level, B1 level, or A2, B2, B1, B2. So depending on your level or the level of your student, you can actually use the chatbot to help you simplify the text, and that saves a lot of time. I mean, as teachers, many times we can do these things, but those things take time. And for some of us who, in some cases, we may be faster than the chatbot in terms of producing something that we find adequate and appropriate, but in other times, the chat bot may be helpful in providing a wide array of options, or, for example, for alternative for a title for an article, for example. The other day, I had to rename an article that we needed to publish, and I asked the chat to give me some options, and it gave me 10 different options, none of which were satisfactory enough for me, but I was able to mix and match and was able to come up with a title that I was satisfied with. So it's a very good tool for brainstorming. Also, it's for critical thinking and problem solving. The chat can be used to we can ask the chat to give us some, for example, alternative solutions to difficult problems, like, for example, climate change, pollution, some difficult problems that we can ask and we can see, and we can also use that as an opportunity to evaluate, the validity of these solutions, the source of these solutions, and then we have content generation for chatbots that some companies use for communication, for productivity, for social networks, and also it can be used for data analysis. So you can give the chatbot a transcript from an interview, or you can give the chatbot, let's say, some compilation of say articles or texts, and you can ask the chatbot to give you some analytical categories or to codify this text. So for teaching and learning, so here's where I want to give you the answer that actually when I prepared this presentation, I asked ChatGPT, what are some ways in which ChatGPT can be used for teaching and active learning? And these are some of ChatGPT's answers. And then you're gonna like the answer, the last part of the answer. So this is the actual full answer. I'm not gonna read all of it, but so some of them I already mentioned in the previous in the previous slide. Let me see, I have until 5:20, so I want to make sure that I leave time for some questions, and I pace myself. So some of these I've already mentioned, and so I'm going to be giving you some examples. So concept explanation. So sometimes concepts can be hard to understand, or it can be, so either as a student or as a teacher, you can use ChatGPT to simplify or to give you answers to some concepts that maybe, so for example, I read in one of the articles that I read for this, to prepare this presentation, one person said that they found very useful the explanation that ChatGPT used for one concept that was a little bit, let's say, obscure or maybe a little bit too advanced. So the ChatGPT was able to simplify it to, let's say, a 6th grade level, or to an A1 or to a B1 level. So you can ask the ChatGPT to give you an explanation to the concept. You can ask the chat to give you examples of the concepts, clarifications, and you can keep asking questions. And if you don't like the answers. So that's the kind of like the interesting thing about these tools. And ChatGPT is not the only one, it's just the one that came out with a boom or with a bang. And there's Bard on Google Bard, and there's also now the Bing chatbot that is powered by ChatGPT. And then Meta just launched the Llama system that also has a coding Llama, and the difference with that is that it's an open source, so the code is open to developers, so that they want to compete with these systems that don't have their code open to developers. And so that what this does is creates a lot of competition, and this is growing really quickly. So these systems have come to stay, and so we need to figure out not only, okay, so these are the things that these things can do, these are the challenges that this situation presents, and these are how can we face these challenges as both users, students, and also if we are teachers, how are we going to use this to teach critical thinking and to talk about these serious issues that these challenges present. So problem solving help, like I said, so you can ask the ChatGPT for help with trying to find solutions to tasks. You can ask the chat to offer strategies, and also practice and feedback. So you can ask the chat to give you questions about a topic to help you, practice for exams, and then you can do a back and forth conversation. Now, here's where you need to tell your students, or as a student, you need to be wary that many times you have to check the answers that the ChatGPT gives you, because sometimes when the language model doesn't know the answer, it will come up with an answer that is made up. I mean, just the thing that the system is programmed to give an answer, even if it doesn't really know the answer very well. It will try an answer, and if you challenge the answer, sometimes it might apologize to the user. So, for example, and so we're going to talk about the challenges later on in terms of there are some systems to let's say to detect whether text has been generated by AI, but those systems are really not very accurate. And even ChatGPT, when you ask them, has this been generated by AI, it has a confirmation bias. And this is something that, see, the ChatGPT has been trained to interact with humans like another human would, or as another human would, or as the system thinks another human would. And a human interaction has this thing, and that social sciences researchers know very well, that is a confirmation bias. So when you ask questions of a person in interviews or in surveys, or there is this thing that is a tendency of the participants or the interlocutor to answer the way he or she thinks you want the question to be answered. So apparently these chatbots are very similar in that regard. So they give you, so if you ask of a ChatGPT, sometimes has this text been generated by AI, it will tell you yes. And then if you say, but how come if I just wrote it myself? And they say, well, I apologize. It actually says, as I apologize. So so that is a very interesting thing. So the one thing that is for sure that it can be good for saving a lot of time, but it can also make you waste a lot of time if you like me, that you like to keep generating answers, then you can go on pretty much forever. So practice and feedback, creative writing prompts, so you can give the chat some topics, and the chat can give you ideas of prompts that you can give your students. One thing that for us in the Language Symposium it's really, really interesting, that I thought it was here, but I had already read the first week that ChatGPT came out, I read an article about how ChatGPT can be used for language learning, and how you can ask ChatGPT to actually create a whole program for improving your language. And it will give you reading materials. It will provide links to sound files, to YouTube videos, to exercises. And so, and you can give ChatGPT the level that you want to practice your language on. So this works both for learners to learn themselves to practice with the ChatGPT, because it is a language model. It is a conversation application that you can use it for language learning. So, and if you're teachers or if you're tutors, you can actually this can be very helpful in giving you ways to engage with your students. Now, also helping with research, like in the previous slides, talking about data analysis. It can generate outlines or organize information for research papers, suggesting credible sources, narrowing down research topics. So, for example, I recently suggested my students that if in one of the places where I teach students, they were having difficulties coming up with subtopics for their outlines for the review of the literature. So I said, well, maybe you can ask ChatGPT and see what options do they give you. And of course, you as the writer, you need to make decisions of which ones are appropriate or adequate and which are not. You can also ask the ChatGPT to help you with processing or reading the different articles or the books, because sometimes academic articles can be a little bit out of reach for students. So if you're an undergraduate student or if you are a beginning graduate student and then you find some research articles that are written by academics for other academics, the language may be a little bit out of reach. So something that is permissible, that is something actually that I encourage some students to do, you can give you can input the article on the chat GPT and ask the chat to simplify the text so that you can read it and you can make sense of it and you can read it better. Something that is not ethical is to ask the ChatGPT to write the paper for you. That's not permissible. That's not acceptable. That's unethical, because and we don't even know how to, ChatGPT, APA came out with a way to cite ChatGPT generated material, but it's not really a reliable source because it doesn't give you the sources of information. Some AI tools will give you answers with sources, but you always have to check those things. So it's good for simulations and interactive scenarios. It's good for asking the chat to, for example, simplify text, to adapt, like, for example, advanced text into a simpler one, or vice versa. You have a simple text, you want to make it more complicated. You want to make it in a level that you or your students are at. And for test preparation, so ChatGPT can give you practice answers, practice questions for your test preparation. So here's the last thing that ChatGPT said in its answer. While ChatGPT can be a valuable tool for active learning, teaching and learning, it is important to keep in mind that it should be used as a complement to traditional teaching methods and human guidance. Human teachers play a crucial role in providing personalized instruction, guidance, and feedback, which cannot be fully replaced by an AI model. So this is something that we should keep in mind as users and also as teachers. And so here I'm sharing a link of a New York Times article that came out a few months ago, that says, "Don't ban ChatGPT, schools teach with it," and it's by the New York Times. Here is, so this is what ChatGPT presented, and this is the summary of the Ditch That Textbook article that I mentioned, that has the Twitter posts, no longer Twitter, now it's called X, as you know. So here are some more ChatGPT uses for teaching and learning. So here are 20 things, and this is the same as, let's say, this one. So use it as a more complex source for information than Google. More complex. I would not see. I don't agree with this. Really, truly, I wouldn't say more complex source. I would say more interactive source, because Google actually gives you the sources of where the information comes from. So I would change that a little bit into saying a more interactive. You can use it to provide students access to lots of good examples of different concepts or different problems. You can use it to remix student work so that you can you present students with different kinds of work. You can ask for definitions on a variety of levels. We were talking about asking them for 12th grade level, 11th grade, 9th grade level, 6th grade level, also for adapting text into language levels, feedback for student work. You can ask it to do some teacher tasks for you, such as, sometimes for coming up with outlines or maybe with activities for and here's where the ethics come into play, because I think, and many teachers have talked about how we can use it as a teaching tool and as a, time-saving device. So if we are using it as teachers, maybe we should not ban it to our students. Now we need to, it's a fine line between, okay, so these are ways in which we can use this tool to learn and to become more active learners and to actually learn more and to think critically about the issues and about the ethics and about all of these. And another thing is like, okay, to use this to become lazy human beings. So there's a difference. And I think that if as teachers we're going to use it to our benefit, we should also know how we can have our students use it to their benefit in terms of learning, because that's what is important. How can you use these tools for learning, not to just, have an easy way to submitting assignments? To add it to the Think, Pair, Share thinking routine. So here's an example of that. So for example, you pose a question and you ask students to pair with each other to talk about it. Then you tell them to talk to the ChatGPT and see what the ChatGPT answers, and then they discuss again with each other, and then they share it with the class. So that is number 7. Number 8 is actually grading the bot and grading the answers that the bot gives you. You can actually also use for analyzing the text generated by the bot. So for example, you ask the ChatGPT to come up with an essay, and then you can ask, or you as a user or your students can try to figure out where the information came from and what kind of grade can you give. And then you can discuss the answers in class, or you can argue with the bot, and you can ask the bot for advice in terms of what should I do here or there. Of course, this is where critical thinking comes. We all have to understand that these are not people. These large language models are systems that were created based on input, on data that was given to them of human interaction, of course. So in some ways, they're able to emulate, to replicate human interaction, but they're not sentient beings, and they're not people. They can give you alternatives of solutions to a problem, or they can say you can do this, you can do that, and you can do that as, let's say, as an opinion. But you as the user, you as the person needing to solve the problem or to answer the question, you need to make a decision of which of the options are the best for you. As I said, you can use it to summarize text or simplify the text. That's actually a very good, in my opinion, a very good use for it. To understand large and difficult problems. So you can ask the chat to explain the problems in ways that are simple to understand. you can ask ChatGPT to write lesson plans. That's if you're a teacher. And then again, you have to use your critical thinking to see whether those lesson plans make sense or not. Then you can anticipate the response you would expect. You can create personalized learning experience, mentoring or coaching, generate prompts or questions to facilitate discussions, provide information and responding to questions. We already talked about that, and complement face-to-face teaching. So these are just a few, and we're going to see and here are some of some teachers' perspectives on the use of ChatGPT in their teachings in classroom. So we used to write a rap about similes and metaphors, and we edited the rap and put it on our own beat to it. So people have been using to create all sorts of different types of content. You can actually get the help of the chat to create scripts for like a school play. And we have to be careful here to see, and this is why the biggest challenge of these language models is how much do we allow these systems to replace, let's say, our student thinking? And we don't want to replace the thinking. We want to use it as a tool for thinking, to use it to design, write designs for experiments, so to create review quizzes, to help you with coding and things like that. But so as teachers, we have to re-evaluate how we actually keep track of student learning. So I would say that inquiry-based learning and inquiry-based, project-based learning, it actually is a very important tool for teachers, in the sense that you want to go into a more formative type of assessment where you can have the students show you the progress. So for example, you can have the chat offer some options for outlines, and then the students get that, and then they can see how they rewrite those outlines to fit the way they want to present the information. And then they go and do the research by themselves. And then maybe you can ask the bot to maybe check the spelling or check the grammar. So there's different ways of using it. But what is really important to understand, and what we need to make our students understand, and we as learners, as users, we need to understand the limitations of these models. So for example, I will give you an example that was really interesting to me. I don't know if it was prior to preparing this presentation, I was challenged with writing proceeds for a conference. And I had already written the abstract, and I had the data for the manuscript. I had to write a short proceeds article. So I said, I'm going to try this ChatGPT to see. I just wanted to test this system. So I input the abstract into the ChatGPT and asked the ChatGPT to write the introduction for the paper. And the introduction came out fairly well. It was fairly decent, background information. And of course, no references or anything, but I could go and find those. I just wanted to test the system. So then I asked the ChatGPT to come up with a methods section. And again, from the abstract that I input, which was about 200 words long, the ChatGPT tried to guess, because the abstract said it was a case study, the different steps or the format that the case study had. So it provided a methods section. And then when the results section came out, that's when the interesting part came. So ChatGPT had to make up some results from the abstract. It needed to imagine what kind of data made up that resulted in that abstract. So it came up with a whole bunch of analytical categories, which were pretty standard for the topic. And the first round was fairly qualitative and generic, so it would pretty much fit any study. But then I kept regenerating the answers. And that's when it started getting interesting, because the system started to try to come up with different answers and started making up data. Like in some cases, quantitative data, it would say like 30% of the students said this and 70% said that, and 50%, 45%. It made up numbers, data, like numerical data, and then it also made up qualitative data in one of the iterations. It would say one student mentioned that virtual exchanges are good for this, or that. So that's when I thought, we need to be careful with these things, because sometimes the answers are not correct answers. So we need to teach our students to be able to use the tools, or ourselves, we need to learn to see what kinds of things these tools are good for and what kinds of things they're not good for. So in my experience, for me, it's usually I waste a lot more time using ChatGPT than doing it myself, because I keep asking. I'm never satisfied with what the chat gives me, so it makes me waste a lot of time. My son, for example, uses the ChatGPT to organize his class notes. So he gives the ChatGPT like the raw notes that he takes in class, and then the chat will organize it very neatly and nicely into like a study guide that is very useful. And I thought that was very interesting. Also, one colleague told me about using the ChatGPT to help students write good research questions. So this colleague teaches research at the marketing program, and he says that the main problem his students have is that they don't know how to ask questions. So he's been using ChatGPT to teach the students how to write questions, good questions for market research, for example. I have another colleague who has used ChatGPT to generate databases to run simulations for statistical analysis. So it asks, and so the chat would actually come up with a whole database, so that then the students can go and analyze for the statistics classes. So it can be very powerful if we find different ways to use it. Now, in terms of other AI tools that can be used for education, here I just have a list of a whole array of other AI-powered tools, such as PDF Gear chatbot. Someone told me that it's been using to help with, locating information within a PDF. So for example, you read the PDF and then you remember the concepts, but you don't remember where it was, like in a book. It can also give you summaries of the books or the articles. So I haven't used it, but I've heard it can be very useful. And there's a whole bunch, like Grammarly is good for writing aid. It helps you with writing style. Quizlet for quizzes and reviews. Duolingo is good for learning vocabulary, and it's AI powered in the sense that based on your progress, it will give you the different levels. And there's Khan Academy that's also AI powered. Kahoot is AI powered. edX is the largest open platform for online learning. OpenAI Classroom Assistant is a system that is for teachers. Quillbot is also for, it's a writing, many of them are writing aids because these are based on language models. So then you have Nearbot, Brainly, ED, Puzzle, Socrative. So these are all, and there's some for visual video. So for example, Chat YouTube that will tell you, or it will give you a summary of a YouTube video. Character AI, Quizalize. Some of them are repeated. I'm sorry, and so Brain, Super Meme, and others. So you can find these just by doing a quick search on Google, saying free AI tools for education, and they will come up on the search. So where do we go from here? So these are some questions to think about and consider. How can technology and AI contribute to the solution of current educational problems as learners and as educators? Because educational problems are not necessarily only for teachers. Educational problems are also for the communities, the users, the students, and the parents and the families. And what ways can the skills of construction and transformation of educational practice be strengthened with the incorporation of information communication tools or technologies, in this case, AI tools. So thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Our day today is the Guarani Language Day we're celebrating. So thank you. I don't know if there are any questions. I hope I only left 2 minutes. I am very, very sorry.
Thank you very much, Professor Canessa, for this wonderful presentation. I see that there are no comments in the Facebook Live. And I would like to mention just something. I teach science in primary school, and there was one situation when one of my students asked me a question and I didn't know how to answer it. And what I did was, well, let's see what ChatGPT has to say. And so we did that, we did research with ChatGPT. They enjoyed, so did I. And after that, I decided, or actually I thought to myself, well, maybe I should include ChatGPT in my lesson plans. And so that's what I did. And so sometimes I use ChatGPT in my science classes, and kids really like it. And you also get to enjoy it.
Thank you, Alexis, for your comment. I think it's a good example that you gave, but also taking it with a grain of salt, remembering to question the answers that ChatGPT gives you, because we don't know exactly how ChatGPT comes up with the answers. So we have to be very critical and teach our students to be critical of the answers that they get, and try to question and try to, from that answer, try to go and research, or ourselves go and research and try to figure out where did the chat get this question from, the answer from, sorry, so that we don't stay with the answer that the chat gives us, because it could be a starting point. It could be, oh, maybe, yeah, that could be a hypothesis. We can use the ChatGPT answer as a hypothesis, and then we go and test and see if researchers agree with that. For example, we can look at lectures on YouTube, we can do other things to see, or we can even re-ask ChatGPT to see where did this answer come from? Do you have, who said this? And so that we can teach our students or ourselves to question what people tell us, because we live in the age of disinformation, and it's important that we learn to be cautious users of these tools. I'm advocating for a cautious use of these tools. They can be great help as teachers and as users, but we need to learn ourselves and also learn to teach, not just if we're teachers, our students, but if we're not teachers, we teach each other about these things.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think Sarah has a question.
Yes, I'm working right now with in a project that is a collaboration between the University of Sheffield and Wanda VR. And we are using ChatGPT to populate spaces for learning. And so we took the fact that GPT is not always reliable to put it into people you're going to find in the school. The scenario is you are a visiting teacher, there's a problem with one of the students, gather information you need to make an assessment and suggest possible strategies. And the fact that ChatGPT might be lying is actually useful because people can be ignorant, people can lie. So part of the evaluation afterwards is saying, okay, what did you learn? Do you think you'll find this situation in a school? How can you know that the information you were given was appropriate, was accurate, and stuff like that? So I think it has a lot of uses for teacher training too.
Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, I think this debate on ChatGPT is going to continue. Many people advocate for it. Others do not. Like Chomsky, he actually criticized it. So we'll see how this continues. So thank you once again.
One last thing, because you mentioned Chomsky. The thing about it is that, and with this I close because I know we otherwise we're gonna get off schedule. The thing is that unfortunately, as individuals, we have no control over these systems and the powers that actually are making these technologies develop so quickly. So we cannot stop it. So the only thing that we can do is actually critically evaluate it, critically use it, and critically teach others to become aware of the issues and the ethics and all of the things that revolve around these tools, because they are here to stay and we're not going to be able to stop it as individuals. So in many areas of knowledge and science, they've already proven to be very useful. So we need to cautiously continue using it, because if we resist it too much, let's say the problem is that we may lag so much behind that we will never be able to catch up to those who are like early adopters, or so that is also something to consider.
Great. Thank you so much once again, Professor Canese, for this wonderful presentation. Before we move on, I would like to make a few announcements. For instance, we're going to have the Applied Linguistics Congress in November, specifically November 14, 15, and 16. So we're going to get more information about that in the upcoming months. Also, I would like to remind you that you can stay until the end of this symposium, because you're going to get the feedback form so that you can give us feedback on this symposium. Now, let's move on to the next presentation. Our presenter is already here. She already asked a question. She is Sara Garcia. She's actually a former ISL student, and now she is in the UK. She's connecting with us from the UK. She is studying at the University of Sheffield, and she's going to present about digital literacies. So, Sarah,
yes,
thank you so much, and whenever you're ready.
Technology is not working with me. Does that work? Can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, as Alexa said, I'm Sara Garcia. I have a VSS in the VSc for clinical psychology in the University Nacional de Asunción, and I'm now finishing my master's at Sheffield in digital literacies, and that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Just a quick primer of the more basic concepts, because it's a big field, but I think it's important to see what's happening in the world of literacy. So we're going to start with some useful concepts. And Today we're going to be talking about spaces of learning that, as the name entails, are places where you learn that are not necessarily school, and digital literacies that are what you need to encode and decode meaning in this digital age, and that includes much more than reading and writing, like manuscripts or even printed text or even in a computer is more than reading and writing, which leads me to multimodality. Nowadays, texts are not only what is written, but also a lot of things that come with it. The layout, the colors that you choose, visual images, photography, audio, a lot of different modes can supplement each other to convey meaning more precisely. And fonts of knowledge that are the knowledge that we carry with us, that we get from our homes and from our cultures, and can be something as simple of how to attach a button that fell out of your shirt, or it can be things like how do you behave when you are in an airport. It varies very widely, and we'll go into more detail later. We'll start with digital literacies. And in order to do that, we have to know what literacy is. And within this frame, this theoretical frame, literacy is something people do. So literacy is primarily something people do. It's an activity located in the space between thought and text. So it's not just thinking and it's not just text, it's the interaction between the two. Literacy does not reside in people's heads or is a set of skill to be learned. It does not reside on paper, captured as text to be analyzed. It's not just a set of skills that you get from your class and then you're done. It's more malleable than that. It's constantly changing. It's a negotiation even with the paper, with the author, with other readers. And like all human activity, it's essentially social. It's in the interaction between people. And according to Kress, literacy practices are evolving, and he said that in 1997, and I think it is still the case that we are in a changing landscape of communication. How many things have changed since the late 90s? We didn't have social media back then. The way we communicate nowadays, it varies widely from what we used to do before. 5-10 years ago, you couldn't have a conversation solely based on memes. And now who doesn't have that WhatsApp group that only sends stickers? So the ways we communicate have changed a lot. And that's precisely what it says, that the kinds of texts we commonly encounter and are required to produce, that is very important, are no longer language-based, but made up of a combination of modes. So it's not only the words you say, but also the visual layout, whether you include a song with it, the gestures you make if you are like talking person to person, gestures, how far or close you are from a person, that also conveys meaning, and of course, linguistic. In thinking about how to teach this, how to get this to the classroom, Bernadette Merchant presented this charter for literacy education. Charter is just a fancy word to say this set of principles we think are useful. No more than that. But there's a lot of them, so we're going to focus on just these three that I think are simultaneously the harder to put into practice, but also the ones that we're going to see the most results from. So we have encourage improvisation and experimentation, as well as the need to produce intelligible text. As educators, we're often way too focused on that last part. We want our students to pass the test. that's not being careless. We care about our students and we want them to do well. But in order to do well, not only in the text, but also in the grand scheme of things, we need to be able to let the students guide however the class is going to. We need to give them space to experiment and not saying like, this is the format, and if you don't have a margin of 2 centimeters, then it's wrong. We need to allow them some creativity, some flexibility, as long as they produce intelligible texts. The second one is generate opportunities for students to engage with others in a variety of ways, with and through text. That goes back to the definition of literacy as social practice. And in the classroom, that will be seen as, when we're talking about a definition, you can make them work in groups and came out with their own definition. And what that fosters is discussion and civilized discussion and trying to get to a common understanding of what whatever means. And in a variety of ways, with and through text, can also mean that if we are reading a book or if they are assigned a book, they shouldn't be a right answer. They should be like, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? How will you answer to this or that? I mean, some things have right answers. If you ask what color of shirt that they were wearing, that's obviously a right or wrong answer. But again, it's talking about being more flexible and more open and allowing students to kind of guide the class as much as they can. The concept of agency is very much important in new literacies that this is a part of. And I think the last one is very important for us as educators. That is, acknowledge the changing nature of meaning making. I didn't grow up as a digital native. I didn't have Facebook when I was in high school. So for me, the change that happened in communication in the last 20 years is mind-boggling. And there are some technologies that, like TikTok, that for the life of me, I cannot decipher. But I know that there are people that are making meaning through it, that are communicating big ideas through this platform and through this format of short videos and answering to videos. And they have their own little rules. And if we don't take that into account when we think about what is literacy, we'll be devaluing a wealth of knowledge that the students have. If we're trying to teach students how to make a good story, you can most certainly do a very good story on Instagram and TikTok. And again, it's a question about what do we value? Do we want them to be able to do well in the exam and that's it? Is that the objective of education? Or the objective of teaching literacies is to communicate in the most appropriate way for the situation they're presented in? And if we're choosing the second one, we have to be aware that technology is going to keep changing. ChatGPT, as Dr. Gensa said, changed completely everything, and everyone was freaking out when they first started seeing essays that were obviously ChatGPT generated. So the meaning of how do we understand that? Is that literacy? Is that copy-pasting? Is that plagiarism? How do we change from plagiarism to critical engagement? If we don't accept that literacy is not the idea that we were told in school, that we have a different landscape now, we're not going to be able to keep up. And finally, that leads us to Jackie Marsh's definition of digital literacies. That touches upon some of the things I've said before. It's a social practice, involves reading and writing, and also involves multimodal meaning making through the use of a range of digital technologies. and we'll talk a little more about what is multimodal right now. Well, what do you see here? If I just show you this Instagram screen, you see a heart, you see a little bubbly thing, and what appears to be a paper plane. I believe most people in the room will know what those symbols mean. Even if you haven't used Instagram before, you know that the heart is like, and the little bubbly thing is talk, and the icon on the right is the bookmark. And also, we have a social understanding. We also know that liking a picture of someone in a bikini is not the same as liking the picture of someone with their pets. We know that making a funny comment in a friend that we saw in a party, and a picture of a party, is not the same as saying, haha, you got drunk, to our professors. So it comes with a series of mores and meanings that are like embedded in digital cultures specifically. And this is a pain scale. And with merely a glance, we understand where is the no pain and where is the super pain. We don't even need words. With a bunch of circles, barely scribbled on, and with colors, we already are conveying meaning. And this pain scale is used widely, worldwide. It transcends languages, and is also used in children and illiterate people, because it doesn't need language to convey what it's trying to convey. With that, we go to multimodality. And we'll touch upon these things very quickly. As I said before, meaning is made through multiple modes. That means that you don't not only use voice and text, but also use images, also use music, also use layout to convey whatever it is you're trying to convey. If you put some sad violins in the background, the same scene of a beach will be sad. If you put a marching band, the same beach will be happy. So the inclusion of that mode can change the meaning of a complete scene, even if only that thing has changed. And each mode offers possibilities and limitations. So it has affordances and constraints. That is to say, if you want to convey you're very happy in your birthday, you're probably going to post a picture with your cake. If you want to convey that you really disagree with the neoliberalization of higher education, you're probably going to write an essay or make a YouTube video. So there are different things that can be done with different modes. And there is not a mode that is better than the other. They're just different, are more useful for certain types of things. And texts are designed using what is available. That is important to us in Paraguay because the digital divide is still so big. And we have a lot of people that have access to high-end cell phones and reliable internet access, that they have access to books in several languages, that they have the time and the privilege to be able to use their time to read books and watch series and try to learn how to use their phones. And we have other people that just don't have the privilege. So who do you think will be better equipped when they're trying to communicate something? The one that has a wider range of tools. So we should try, at least, to give our students the best possible ground to stand on, and at least make them aware that these other modes exist and they are valued, they are useful. because all the choices that are made are relevant. They show the intentions of the sign maker. And even if they are purposeful, they might not be deliberate and conscious. It's not that I say, I am very happy. How should I convey this? Do you think I shall write a sonnet? Or maybe I'll make a YouTube video or a TikTok? No, we just kind of have a feel for it and use what we know how to use and is capable of conveying whatever meaning we're trying to convey. And this might be a little controversial in the Language Institute, but according to Kress, language is not necessarily the more important mode. That means that the quantity and quality of information that is transmitted through music or layout or color or whatever other modes is equally important than the textual content. And the textual content, the linguistic content actually, cannot be studied in isolation. If I show you this, probably some of you will know what comes after. But if I show you this, you will perfectly understand why this is fine has a meaning, has a different meaning perhaps that we thought of just reading this is fine. And that is an example of how multimodality enriches the capacity to convey whatever meaning we're trying to convey. This is another example. Even if you have never watched any of the series, we see that in both there are families standing in their kitchen and apparently talking. But we immediately realize that the tone of these two series are very different. One is bright and colorful and everyone is clustered together. Even if we don't take into account their faces and their facial expressions, the composition and the lights tell a story too. And it's the same with Sabrina, that we have muted colors, we have old-fashioned air dressings, we have just tenuous light that comes through the curtain. So the mood is very different without any textual content. And we have funds of knowledge and that are historically accumulated, culturally developed bodies of knowledge that are skills essential for household or individual functioning and well-being. What this means is that there are certain things that are passed generation to the next generation to the next generation that can be how to put back a button, can be how to behave in an airport, can be the best recipe for pasta that you got from your nonna, can be, I don't know, whether you eat avocado with sugar or with salt. They can be little silly things, and they also can be very impactful things. Because if, for example, all of your family is college educated, they will pass on knowledge that will help you do better in those contexts. So that this is also a way to kind of highlight the inequalities if we don't acknowledge it. So the funds of knowledge approach acknowledge the wealth of knowledge that your children gain for participation in cultural and social practices. So we understand children not as tabula rasa, but they already have a wealth of knowledge on many different things that should be valued. If we're hoping for education to be fair, we have to take that into account where we do the curriculum. And in the classroom, in practical sense, in a class of language arts, for example, will mean that you have a suggested reading list and you make sure to include different points of view, different people represented in those books. You have to include people with disabilities. You have to include people of different sociocultural backgrounds. Can include people of different cultures or different religions. And is seeing the world in all of its diversity as a good thing, not trying to be egalitarian, but appreciating the difference that each kid has, instead of trying to homogenize everything and say, no, we're all the same, so we're all going to read the same books, and I don't see color. I don't see color does not work. Color exists, is a social construct, and we should acknowledge it. And that leads us to spaces of learning. The spaces of learning are places where we learn. And we're going to focus on the places we learn that are not precisely schools or universities. And first we have these three. Situated learning relates to active participation. Apprenticeship is like what a chef do when they go into the kitchen to learn from the very basics to being a sous chef. Or nurses have a lot of in-the-job training that can also be considered situated learning. And a little more organized way of seeing things are communities of practice. That is also learning in the real world, but the focus is on social groups, learning with other people that are involved in the same context. And I know most of you know that teachers usually hang out with other teachers, more often live with other teachers, and talk about teaching. So that is a community of practice. When you talk about your job with your colleagues, you offer each other advice, you try out what works and what doesn't, you tell your friends do not work for that school, they pay very poorly, and stuff like that. It forms a very tight-knit community around a specific practice that is often a job. And affinity spaces is a delightful concept that proposed by G, and is a little more disorganized than the communities of practice, because it is a space that can be physical or digital, for any of them, can be physical or digital, in which people interact, but not as member of a community, but as people interested in the same things. That's where the affinity comes from. And they're socially constructed and share meanings within this particular space. An example of that can be maker spaces, it can be embroidery clubs, it can be a Bible school, it can be a soccer club. Wherever people gather around a certain interest that is an affinity group. It can even be following a hashtag. I follow the hashtag for watercolors in Instagram. So I get in touch with other people that also like watercolors. And certain meanings are constrained to that particular group. If I read that something is wet on wet or wet on dry, I will know what that means because I'm part of that affinity space. But most people are going to just not understand what it is. And lastly, we have third spaces that are spaces for learning that are not home on school and are productively disruptive, more on that later. It's an inclusive space that allows access to media making to a diverse population while disrupting the traditional hierarchies of the classroom. So what is productively disruptive? The disruption means that it's not the traditional way of looking at things. While we are in school, the students have certain pressure to perform, to get good grades. Where they are at their homes, they have a particular responsibility to be good kids. In their spaces, the hope is that those pressures are lifted, that they find themselves in a safe space to guide their own learning and to experiment. And that has two main good things that come from it. First is that directing your own learning with the help of facilitators that are there, so they make sure that you don't cut a finger or something, but they are not there to mark you and judge you. And you choose what to do, you choose a project, you can jump from one project to another, you can do whatever you want. And that gives students more confidence in their own agency. And that agency is then translated to other fields. And it's also, and I think the most important thing is that it gives resistance to frustration. If you go to a third space and you do whatever you want, you're going to fail, because everyone fails at some point at something, but there's no harmful consequence. The biggest lesson that we can learn is that making a mistake is all right. You just don't do it again. You try again, you start over, you try a new project, you keep going. And it's not going to impact the rest of their year. It's not like flunking a subject and having to study till February. So that kind of flexibility, that kind of not being so close up by expectations is, I think, very useful for our students. And thank you very much. You can find me at the email posted on the screen. And if you want any of the references, just send me an email with, just make sure to put Symposium in the header so I know to answer those mails first. And I hope you have had a good time and learn a little about us.
Thank you so much, Sarah, for this engaging presentation. I really liked it, especially the part about multimodality, meaning goes beyond language, but it's more semiotic, like images and music. That was wonderful. There is a question from Professor Canessa in the chat. I would like to read it for you. It says,
Dr. Canessa is right there.
Yeah. It says, Sarah, when are you coming back to Paraguay? This research is very much along the lines of my research interests. I would love to have a collaboration with the ISL if possible. Would you be interested in presenting some preliminary results at the Applied Linguistics Congress?
I'm under an NDA because the research is not presented yet. So it depends on when it is, if I can talk about it or not. But yeah, it's a big collaboration. There's like 10 universities working with Wanda VR. And yeah, I can talk to my supervisor and, just talk about what we did, not what we found, but what we did.
Thank you so much, Sarah.
Excellent. Thank you.
Okay, so before we move on, I would like to remind you actually about the Applied Linguistics Congress that's going to take place in November. More information on that in the future. Also, we have a scientific journal, which is called Ñemitira. So you can check that out. We have many articles in different languages. Well, this is it from my part. Let me introduce you to the next host. Yes, Professor Canessa.
Sorry to interrupt. I just want to mention that I put there in the chat, and I think in the chat on Facebook also, the site for the conference for the Applied Linguistics Congress is compla.org, so that you can, those of you who are interested in presenting your papers can go there and see the call for papers.
One more thing, if you're interested in working with multimodality with children as co-producers, I'm going to put a link now in Facebook for Angela Colbert has fantastic alternate reality games, augmented reality games that you can apply in the classroom, and that she's wonderful. So just a plug for my lecture.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. So this is it from my part. It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. And let me introduce you to the next host. She is Micaela Ferreira. Are you there?
Yes, thank you so much, Alexis. Good evening, everybody. I hope you're enjoying the 7th edition of the English Learning Symposium. Before introducing our next presentation, I would love to encourage all the viewers to follow the ISL on social media. You can find them on Instagram at Instituto Superior de Lenguas PI, also on YouTube and LinkedIn as Instituto Superior de Lenguas Paraguay. Now, without further ado, I would love to introduce you to our next presentation called The Art of Translation, Exploring the Challenges and Techniques in English to Spanish and Spanish to English Translation, brought to you by the third-year students Lucia Benitez, Monse Casal, and Sofia Espinola.
Well, I'm going to play the video, and I want you to let me know if you can listen to it.
Hello, it's Lucia Benitez, Montserrat Casal.
Yes, we can listen to it.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, it's Lucia Benitez, Montserrat Casal, and Sofia Espinola. And today we're going to be presenting about the art of translation, exploring the challenges and techniques in English to Spanish and Spanish to English translation. So, what is translation? Translation is conveying the meaning of a text from one language to another. So it's been a way of communicating for centuries, and if you think about how it is used, without it, the world will be a very different place. It will be hard to talk about people from other countries. We wouldn't understand each other's languages. So working together, doing business, making friends around the world will be really tough. So now I'm going to be talking about the complexity and artistry involved in translation. So it is said that translation is like a puzzle that requires putting together words from one language into another while keeping the same meaning. It's not just about finding matching words, it's about understanding the culture and emotions behind the words too. So we can think of it as a bridge between two worlds, and translators, they need to know both languages very well to understand and all the little differences. They also need to know the history and customs of both places or countries so they can choose the right words and phrases. Now I'm going to be talking about the challenges, 4 of the challenges that I found in English to Spanish and Spanish to English translation. So the first difference will be that there is not one Spanish, meaning that if you're looking to translate your content into Spanish, it's important to know exactly what kind of Spanish speakers are in your target language. The second challenge will be that different countries have different cultural norms and reference. So when translating, from your source language to a foreign language, you are bound to run into cultural norms that just don't really translate. And the third challenge would be that Spanish translators are longer. This is due to formality, because Spanish has more ways to express a word, while English doesn't really. So Spanish could be informal, but English just has one way to express some words for formality and informality. And the last challenge would be that the Spanish language is more complex. And one of the most significant differences between a language like English and a Romance language like Spanish is that the level of complexity, unlike English, Spanish uses gender nouns that change based on the speaker, the noun and the plural and singular, and has different agreement rules regarding verbs and adjectives as well.
Okay, so now about the importance of context and cultural understanding in translation. So translation goes beyond only word substitution. It involves the intricate task of bridging linguistic and cultural gaps to convey accurate meaning and intent. So now I will explain the importance of context and cultural understanding in translation, while exploring their important roles in achieving accurate and effective communication as well. So first we have cultural nuances in translation. The role of cultural nuances comprehends aspects like, for example, social norms, customs, and taboos in shaping the reception of messages. The absence of cultural context can lead to unintentional offense or confusion among the target audience. Recognizing and accounting for cultural distinctions empower translators to make informed decisions that resonate harmoniously with the intended recipients. Secondly, we have deepening connections through cultural understanding. So according to Wright, the link between cultural context and language learning and the art of translation not only facilitates meaningful connections between languages, but it also societies at large. Successful translation transcends basic word conveyance. It captures the very essence of the source culture, ensuring a holistic communication experience. The third one, impact on communication and interpretation. So translation requires not only accurate language skills, but it also requires an understanding of different cultures, making it a combination of linguistic accuracy and cultural knowledge as well. Cultural disparities significantly mold how messages are perceived and interpreted by the audience. Jiwa, who is a researcher in the field, underscored this importance, and she also shed light on how even a minute contextual details within, for example, subtitles in movies, it plays a critical role in effectively conveying intended meanings. And finally, we have enhancing language learning. So cultural context stands as a cornerstone in the process of language acquisition and comprehension. Wright, who is another researcher in the field, not only suggests that embracing cultural intricacies enriches the journey of language learning, but it extends this insight to the domain of translation. The assimilation of cultural insights equips translators, with the tools to achieve accuracy and depth in their communication efforts. Therefore, cultural context is vital in translation. Translators need to grasp both language's cultural nuances beyond just linguistic accuracy. Ignoring this can lead to misinterpretations, loss of meaning, and insensitivity. As evident from various sources, understanding context ensures accurate, meaningful translation for the intended audience. Next slide, please, Sophie. So now, research and preparation for accurate translation. So here we have a quote about the preparations that we need for doing accurate translation, it is from Bernard Dinello and Pedersen, which says accurate and effective translation is a complex process that requires throughout research and preparations to capture both linguistic and cultural nuances present in the source text. So accurate and effective translation is a complex process that goes beyond basic language conversation. It needs, like I said, throughout research and preparation in order to capture the intricacies of both linguistic and cultural elements present in the source text. By integrating meticulous research and preparation, translators strive to ensure that the translated context not only conveys the intended message accurately, but it also preserves the cultural context inherent in the source material. Linguistic nuances encompass a wide range of language-specific elements. For example, it includes grammar, syntax, idiomatic expressions, and word choice. Simply translating words without considering these intricacies can result in a text that lacks coherence, natural flows, or even meaning. For instance, language often have different ways of expressing politeness, formality, or gender-specific terms, which might require careful consideration to maintain the intended tone and respect in the translated version. Cultural nuances, on the other hand, pertain to the social, historical, and contextual aspects embedded within a language. Every culture carries its own set of values, beliefs, taboos, and references that might not have direct equivalents in another language. So, failing to account for this can lead to misinterpretations, insensitivity, or the loss of important contextual information. Therefore, a thorough understanding of the cultural context is essential for producing a translation that resonates with the target audience. Preparation in translation involves making informed decisions about how to navigate linguistic and cultural challenges. Translators need to choose the most appropriate words and expressions to encapsulate the essence of the original text while accounting for the target language-specific features. They must also consider creative solutions for effectively rendering cultural references as well. So we can go to the next slide, please, Sophie. So as I mentioned earlier, translation requires a deep understanding of linguistic nuances, cultural context, and effective communication. So now I will explain the techniques employed in English-Spanish and in Spanish to English translation. By taking a look into the methods of literal translation, cultural adaptation, and transcreation. So first we have literal translation, as you can see there in the image. So literal translation involves the direct rendering of the source text word for word into the target language while maintaining the grammatical structure of the original. This approach aims to replicate the exact wording, which can sometimes lead to awkward or unnatural phrasing in the target language. While it is suitable for straightforward content, a literal translation may struggle to capture the intricate cultural nuances, for example, and idiomatic expressions as well, present in the source text. Next, we have cultural adaptation. So, cultural adaptation focuses on preserving the core meaning of the source text while making adjustments to align with the cultural context of the target audience. This technique actually ensures that the translation remains culturally relevant, and comprehensible to the intended readers, even if it requires modifying certain cultural references or idiomatic expressions. The aim of this technique is to strike a balance between linguistic accuracy and cultural resonance. allowing effective cross-cultural communication. And finally, we have transcreation. So transcreation transcends the boundaries of literal translation and cultural adaptation. It basically involves a creative reanalyzing of the source text. I mean, to evoke similar emotions, cultural resonances, and impact in the target audience. Often employed in areas like, for example, marketing, advertising, and creative content. Transcreation recognizes that conveying the emotional and cultural aspects of the message is primary for its effectiveness. This technique allows for flexibility and innovation in delivering the intended message, while also accounting for the cultural nuances of the target audience. So, to end my part, I would say that translation is an art that demands a delicate balance between faithfulness to the original and adaptability to the cultural context. The techniques of literal translation, cultural adaptation, and transcreation offer distinct paths towards achieving effective communication across languages. So, by understanding and applying these strategies, translator can navigate the complexities of translation, preserving the essence of the source text while also engaging the target audience on a profound level. Thank you.
Now I'm going to talk about the technology in translation. Technology has had a significant impact on the field of translation, revolutionizing how translation tasks are carried out and making the process more efficient and accessible. Here's an overview of the role of technology in translation, including the use of translation tools and machine translation. Translation tools, often referred to as computer-assisted translation tools, are software applications designed to assist human translators in their work. They don't perform translation automatically, but provide a set of features that help translators work more efficiently. Some key components of translation tools include translation memory, terminology management, concordance search, and alignment. Translation memory store previously translated segments of text and their corresponding translations. When a document is being translated, the tool searches the translation memory for matches and suggests or automatically inserts previously translated segments. This ensures consistency across documents and saves time. Then terminology management. These tools allow the management of specialized terminology used in specific industries or contexts. The consistent use of terminology is crucial for accurate translation. Then we have concordance search. This feature allows translators to search through the translation memory for instances of a specific word or phrase to ensure consistent translation. And last, we have alignment, which is a process that involves aligning source and target language pairs in parallel text to create a new translation memory or update an existing one. Then we have machine translation, which is the use of computer algorithms to automatically translate text from one language to another. Over the years, machine translation has evolved significantly, and here we have three main types, which are the rule-based machine translation, statistical machine translation, neutral machine translation. Those three. The rule-based machine translation uses linguistic rules and grammatical structures to generate translations. While it can provide accurate translations in certain contexts, it often struggles with complex sentence structures and idiomatic expressions. Statistical machine translation relies on statistical patterns learned from large bilingual corpora. It improved translation quality by taking context into account, but still face challenges with idiomatic expressions and nuances. And then neutral machine translation. Based on deep learning and neural networks, it has brought substantial improvements in translation quality. It considers the entire context of a sentence, resulting in more natural and fluent translation. For example, Google Translate, Lingly, and other online translation services. Post-editing is the process of refining machine-generated translations by human translators. It's often used to improve the output of machine translation systems, ensuring that the final result is accurate and coherent. And then customization and adaptation. Many translation tools and machine translation systems allow for customization to specific industries, domains, or companies. This customization can help improve accuracy and consistency in specialized contexts. Well, in essence, technology has made translation more efficient, consistent, and accessible, while machine translation has its limitation. And it's a valuable tool that, when used in conjunction with human expertise, can greatly accelerate the translation process and enhance the overall quality. The art of translation involves a delicate balance between linguistic accuracy, cultural understanding, and creative adaptation. Translated between English and Spanish presents its own set of challenges and opportunities for creativity. By applying specialized techniques and drawing on linguistic expertise, translators bridge the gap between languages and cultures, ensuring that the essence of the original text is preserved while making it accessible to a new audience. Well, I hope you find this presentation useful, and if you need further information, you can send us an email and we will be more than happy to help you. Thank you. Bye.
Wonderful, wonderful presentation, girls. Thank you so much. So we have a question in the chat asked by Gaby Saban. Let me see if I can read it. Gaby Saban asks, what is the most difficult in making translation between English to Spanish and Spanish to English? Sofia Espinola, are you there to answer the question? Okay, I think she's not here, but she previously sent me, she's there in the chat. So she says, basically, is that Spanish is more complex because it depends on nouns that have genders or formality. Okay, great. Thank you so much, girls. Now I would like to once again invite all of our viewers to follow the ISL on social media and to check their website because they have very, very useful courses that you cannot miss out. I will put the link in the Facebook chat for any interested people. And before we go, I would like to announce to our viewers that there will be a certification for this symposium. You will have to fill out an evaluation form, and the link will be written down in the Facebook chat. Another thing that I would like to announce is about the CONPLA, the 4th Congreso Paraguayo de Lingüística Aplicada that will be held on November 14th, 15th, and 16th. Okay, so that's it for the symposium. I don't know if any of the professors would like to say anything else, would like to add anything to the presentation, but that is basically it for today.
Professor Christopher?
Yes, I'm here. There it is. Hello, everyone, and I'm very pleased to have been enjoying this symposium made by the students. Michaela, you rock. And I really appreciate all the help that we got from the students, the hosts, and the presenters, and everyone who contributed for the purposes of this symposium. The idea of the symposium is to help our community. So we always ask the viewers to fill in a form, an evaluation form, because that form gives us ideas on what to cover in the following symposium. That is fundamental for us then, to get your input, to get recommendations on what to talk about and how we can help you or we can serve you better. Professor Canese?
Well, I would like to also express my gratitude and thank you to, first of all, the students who organized this event, Professor Christoffel for working with the students to organize this event, all the tutors, the extension tutors that work with the students with the different projects that were presented at this event. Also, everyone who contributed with the presentations, Paratesol with the partnership, and everybody, Sarah, who was here presenting her expertise from the University of Sheffield, and everybody else. I would like to express my sincere gratitude because thanks to your contribution and your collaboration, we can grow as a learning community. Please do not forget to fill out the evaluation form. As Mr. Christoffel said, each year we get many different ideas and feedback from participants regarding our event and how we can make it better for next year. Also, once you complete that evaluation form, you will be able to have a participation certificate. So the more people that complete the form, the more feedback we will have, and also you will get credit or you will get a certificate for the hours for the full duration of the event. Mr. Christoffel, is it 7 or 8 hours that are going to be included in the certification?
7 hours.
Okay, so it's going to be 7 hours. So that is a very good number of hours already. So we had 4 hours yesterday and 3 hours today. So thank you once again, all of our students. Thank you, Mr. Christoffel, and thank you everybody who's been participating and sending their questions and their comments on our Facebook page. I hope you can also participate at our Paraguayan Applied Linguistic Congress that is going to be held in November. The call for papers is now open. You can go to compla.org and get the call for papers. The only thing you need to do is write up an abstract between 200 and 300 words with your project or research that you're doing. You can present finished projects, or you also can present projects that are in progress with, advances for the projects. Also, we will have the book presentation that we presented yesterday in a month and a half or so. So please follow our page so that you will get all of the news from the ISL. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, professors, and thank you so much to all of the viewers. We hope you enjoyed the 7th edition of the English Learning Symposium. You can find this edition of the symposium in the ISL's YouTube channel. The link is already on the Facebook comments, and the link to the certification form is also on the comments for you to fill out. Thank you so much, everybody.
Un agradecimiento muy especial a Francisco Busó, que nos estuvo ayudando muchísimo ayer y hoy en la transmisión de este evento. Muy buenas noches, hasta luego.